Hello and welcome to Star Wars Connection. My name is Lee and I'm here with Denise. In our previous conversation about the Entertainment Weekly The Last Jedi feature, we talked about the potential dynamics between Luke and Kylo and Rey and Kylo, although Kylo didn't get his own article, but that's a topic for another time. We're going to be now talking a little bit more about Kylo Ren, Rey's parentage. We're also going to touch on some really exciting rumors about the Obi-Wan movie. Towards the end of our episode, we're going to talk a little bit about Chewie, Poe, Leia, Maz Kanata, and the enigmatic DJ. Let's jump right in and start with everyone's favorite topic, Kylo Ren. The final article in this 8-part piece titled The Last Jedi, Kylo Ren's Humiliation and Other Tales from the Star Wars Dark Side. And so I'm just going to read what Anthony Breznican has to say about Kylo Ren. The aspiring Sith let his last bit of light slip away when he drove his janky, handmade lightsaber into the heart of his father, Han Solo. It goes on to say, Kylo was knocked off base. This is a quote from Rian Johnson. The defeat that he had at the end of The Force Awakens, but even bigger than that, his huge defining act, which was Han Solo's murder, that's the more interesting thing to dive into. How has he dealt with that in his head? Where is he at in terms of the act, and what does that mean for him? It sounds like we're going to be exploring a little bit of that in the movie, which is good news for Kylo fans.
Yeah, I think it's interesting and how, Han Solo's death is going to be used for something that has depth and significance. And it's not, oh, look how bad Kylo is, like some people think. I think for character growth, and I think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm just kind of stuck on that. The last bit of light slipped away from Kylo. Like, where is he getting this from? Did he watch the same movie I did? I don't know. I don't think that's what it means.
At that moment, the last bit of light slipped away, everything got dark. In that moment...
I disagree. The light was dimmed in that moment. We've already talked about how that's like a beautiful visual storytelling moment because you see the light playing across Kylo Ren's face and gradually it becomes red. And when it completely engulfs him, that's the moment when he commits this terrible act. But to say that the last bit of light slipped away from him implies that the light is completely gone. Because you actually get to see his face right after when he has that realization, oh crap, what did I do? That was a pretty subtle but very much there touch, I think, by JJ, so that we know that Kylo is now celebrating and doing a jig that he just killed his dad. He looks horrified. So I don't think that's the last bit of light slipping away.
Come on, he was laughing and twirling his mustache. Didn't you look at it? I saw it in the movie. Was it the same movie?
I don't know. This Breznican dude just sounds like a salty Han Solo fan who has it in for Kylo. Like, he's taking some pretty gratuitous shots when you really think about what he's saying. We've talked about it before, how the lightsaber as a phallic symbol can be a visual representation of a character's masculinity. And in Kylo's case in particular, it seems to be the case. So when he's criticizing Kylo's lightsaber and making fun of it, basically saying that his lightsaber is defective and poorly made and all that, he's basically taking a really hardcore diss at Kylo Ren as a masculine figure. And as a psych nerd, I'm just fascinated by that. And just to be clear, I'm not saying that for sure that's the intention behind the article or that's even purposely done. It's just my reading of it, my interpretation of it. There's like a hostile undertone, I think, towards Kylo here. And seriously, I mean, janky handmade lightsaber. Since when is handmade an insult? When it refers to lightsaber building in Star Wars, it's actually a rite of passage to build your own lightsaber. But the way he's talking about it, it's like, where is he going to get it from? Amazon? The lightsaber store?
I'm pretty sure you could find it there, but I don't know. But yeah, I think you're right, because he's putting a lot of importance on Han Solo. But yeah, but in a way it should be important, because, there are many fans and everything, so I think it's okay.
Well, you did mention this before, actually, and this is another part of the article where it mentions that Han's going to be pretty much like a ghost. His presence is going to be felt. We're going to be very aware that he's not there physically, but he's pretty much there in spirit and in the minds of the other characters, too.
Yeah, because he influenced so many people, the protagonists, right? If you think of Rey and Kylo, how hugely important he was for both of them, and to Finn to a certain extent as well. So, of course, he has to be important. He's going to be like this. We were talking about a father figure in the masculinity podcast. He's going to be this father figure that's missing from these people, and how they're going to, the aftermath of this. It even in relation to Rey, it talks about that, how, Luke is not Han and everything. So I think it's interesting, and I think it's cool.
Exactly. And then some of us have been anyway, complaining about the fact that Kylo looks so mopey and depressed and just, demoralized. But if you put that image of Kylo together with the quote from Rian Johnson that we're going to be exploring where Kylo's mind frame and his state of mind is after this act, it's pretty clear that he's not in a good place.
It even, I think, explains, I agree with you that Kylo, when he's active, he's fighting, he's more interesting. But I think they're marketing mopey Kylo to prepare people to what is coming, If we're going to have a more complex character that's going to go through this, introspection and rethink his ways. And I mean, the people who are expecting him to come and be evil, because a lot of people were expecting, you have to set the expectations right in the marketing. And I think that's why they're doing it. Even though I agree it's a little boring, but I'm pretty sure he's going to do fun stuff in the movie.
Yeah, I'm very encouraged by the fact that all the leaks that we have seen from the toys, he looks fierce. Like, he doesn't look, like, oh, I'm too depressed to comb my hair. Like, he actually looks intense and fierce. We were actually touching on this, the fact that we've heard very little of the dynamic between Rey and Kylo Ren, but what we have heard is actually pretty significant, and it makes you go like, why would he say that? So, for example, here we have a quote from Rian Johnson referring to the relationship between Rey and Kylo. He said, Kylo and Rey are, quote, two halves of the dark and the light. Among their shared interests.
Shared interest. Ooh, two halves.
Oh my god, like, I don't know, like walking in the rain, drinking pina coladas. Like, it just sounds so romantic. But anyway, their shared interests, obviously, aside from beating people up with lightsabers, is she is an expert pilot, and in this film, we'll see him maneuvering his own starship, the TIE Silencer, which is a variation on his grandfather, Darth Vader's old ship. So that's cool.
Yeah.
I get to see Kylo piloting. I think that's something that's been on our wish list for a long time.
Yes, absolutely. I would like to see that. And it's cool that they put, they're both pilots. Come on. It's interesting that they want to put them together, which is not something I would think. I would think that they're similar because of their Force users. But, that's interesting as well.
Yeah. I think that this quote of them being two halves of one thing, I mean, we've been talking about how there's a symmetry, there's a balance, right, and a complementariness to the way that they're positioned, and this pretty much says it right there. They're two halves of one thing, and it's almost like they need to come together to be complete. So I'm just very excited about that.
Yeah, it's how they're spelling it out clearly, things that we've been saying for a long time, and now they're there, like, we're right, we knew we were right, but it's just good to see it.
Yes. Some other things we wanted to talk about, just briefly mention, you guys. Adam Driver did an interview for the Today Show with Willie Geist, and it's actually really cool. I've had a chance to check out some of it. I haven't seen the whole thing, but he talks about how he kind of hopes that the fans will be happy with Kylo. That says a lot to me because he knows that people just love and adore Kylo Ren. He knows better than everybody because people stop him all the time to tell him, So if he says that, I don't think he's saying that people are going to be glad that Kylo suffers and dies irredeemed. So
yeah, it would be very depressing. I mean, what kind of trilogy would be that? But yeah, it's interesting. Maybe it's the fact that he's coming more mellow. Maybe he might coming a little bit more mellow, and I'm not sure about it. So I don't know.
There's also some hints, and they're trying to play up this aspect of it. The fact that Kylo will become darker before he becomes lighter, and some new materials have come out showing Kylo with the lightsaber, where he's looking like he's trying his hardest to look evil, but it's not working out for him. So for sure, I think we're going to see, and we had talked about this before, how at least starting out, Kylo has a lot to prove, and he's going to be trying hard to silence any doubters, because I'm sure everybody who survived Starkiller Base knows that he got his ass handed to him by this girl. So he's going to be trying, to portray himself as this tough, evil guy. So I wouldn't be surprised if we hear more about this, Kylo becoming darker, but I wouldn't get fooled by it one bit.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why it's not in the marketing, and
well, it's starting to come out. I've seen a couple of images with him with the lightsaber. I think they just are taking their time, and as it nears, to the release of the movie, I think we're going to see more of that. So next we have a little bit of a little paragraph about Kylo, how from Rian Johnson. Kylo represents kind of the rebellious anger that you feel during that period of adolescence. Honestly, sometimes it's a healthy desire to push away from the place that you know, from the things that you came from, but he obviously does it in an extreme that's not healthy at all.
I think he watched our podcast on masculinity. Because that's exactly what you said, and we did it before the... I know, I shouldn't be tooting our own horns, but it's just, that's what we're discussing, how, you know, there it's this, and it's interesting that he puts him as a normal teenager, you know, so of course it's extreme, but it's something that, you know, you can identify with him in a way, even though you definitely wouldn't go to that extreme.
Exactly. After that, we have that interesting quote from Daisy Ridley where she says, she just doesn't understand Kylo. When all she wanted was parents, why would a person who has parents do that? It's so beyond comprehension is ridiculous. So she has grief for the loss, and then there's anger. To be honest, she couldn't understand doing something like that, let alone to your parents. So she keeps emphasizing how she doesn't get Kylo, she's angry at Kylo. So obviously, he's going to be angry at her, although we talked about how maybe not as much as is expected, but at least initially, he's going to probably be pissed. She's going to be angry. Confrontation time. That's going to be fun to watch.
But check out what's super interesting is this. Since when the opinion of the hero is important, what the hero thinks about the antagonist. Ooh, the hero doesn't understand the antagonist. I mean, since when it was an issue? Since when? Since you have to, that is something that she has to overcome, this understanding of him. So if they were set up, oh no, like some people have been said, no, they're just antagonists, they're gonna fight. Why is it important what she thinks about him? And it's important because that's what we're getting. And so, you know, they're definitely set up to getting to know each other. You know, all this paragraph sets that up. Of course, it might not be romantic, but I actually find it more interesting if it starts as something that's more like a mutual interest and everything. What do you think about it?
Oh, absolutely. I personally don't like when things are telegraphed too obviously, and when the story kind of just pushes things in a way that's too straightforward. So that's what I like about this. If you're paying attention and you piece things together, you can see that's where things are heading most likely, but it's not so obvious that you can say, oh, I'm 100% sure this is going to happen, right? It's not too overt where it becomes a boring thing that you're 100% sure of. So I don't want to like go into some tangent about Game of Thrones, but that's one of my complaints about the pairing there that finally happened, you know, Jon and Dany. Like, it was just too obvious this season, so it was less exciting with Reylo. I think that it could either happen or it might not, but for sure they're telling us these people are going to have an important connection, and how they relate to each other is going to be a key piece of the story. The fact that the director and screenplay writer are saying that they're two halves of one thing, even if it doesn't end up being romantic, they're telling us that it's a big deal. And the fact that they're not really talking about it too much is, for me, a big indicator that this is going to be a huge twist, or at least they're expecting it to be.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's like we've been saying, like not only us at Star Wars Connections, but a lot of people, how the relationship is between these two characters is, you know, central to the sequel trilogy, and that's definitely what they're saying, at least to their part of the plot. Of course, there's the Resistance plot that goes a little differently, but then the Resistance plot has Leia, you know, and it kind of ties in with that in a way. So yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Rey's parentage. It's a topic that's on everybody's mind, and there were some interesting things said in the Entertainment Weekly feature. Rian Johnson talked about it, the fact that it doesn't matter who Rey's parents are. It doesn't change who she is, but it's something that we're going to hear more about, but it's unclear if it's going to be fully answered here. And the idea that she's trying to piece things together for herself, but ultimately she's going to find that it's okay. You know, what matters is what she chooses to do. And that's great and all, but we really just want to know.
I think it's really important because it means that it says that it's important only for her. So it very clearly debunks Rey Skywalker. I mean, they couldn't have said it in any clearer way. It means that her parents are not important for anybody who's in the story. And he compares her parentage to Citizen Kane and Rosebud. And Citizen Kane is this movie. It changed the way movies are made. That's why it's so famous. But if you watch it now, it's just a regular movie. And the Citizen Kane, it starts with a character that dies and his last words is Rosebud. And then there's this journalist that goes the whole movie trying to find out what Rosebud is. And in this process, he learns about the life of this person. And in the end, we learn that Rosebud was actually just a toys lad. And the mini is just like kind of symbolic, his lost innocence, and it's not important. So I think it was Rian Johnson that compared it, it's very clearly states that, guys, it's not going to be a big deal, because in Citizen Kane, Rosebud, what it is not a big deal. It's not this key that solves everything. It has more symbolic meaning that is for the character, in this case of Citizen Kane. In this case, it's going to be for the character of Rey. So we shouldn't be, so that's why I say it's not going to be DJ. DJ is not going to be her father for sure, even if he's King Prana, because it's not super important for her, and that gives us lots of clue. Now, that relates a little bit to, we know that she's not Rey Skywalker. Now, to Rey Kenobi, I wouldn't say debunks it completely, because Obi-Wan is not mentioned in The Force Awakens in any way. So that's why I didn't think he was her father. But it would be just a nice tidbit, Easter egg that does not really mean a lot. I think it kind of debunks it, but I don't think it debunks it. The fact that they say that Rey's parentage is important only for her, do you think it debunks Rey Kenobi?
No, not at all. I think that I'm more convinced now than ever about Rey Kenobi since they announced the release of the Kenobi movie.
Okay.
I mean, you told me it's not really confirmed, right? It's like kind of rumors and all this, but it sounds like it's in pre-production or in production or whatever. I think this all ties in with the bigger picture marketing. Mm-hmm. I think it's a great way to connect the movie, and it becomes more relevant than ever if we get to find out how exactly was it that Obi-Wan came to have descendants,
Yeah,
so what happened to him. And I think the movie can provide an excellent explanation for that. For people who say, well, no, because Obi-Wan is the consummate Jedi Knight. He's not going to betray the code by going off and having babies. But the idea that, how can he ever do this? But guys, remember, the Jedi Order was over. They were all executed, basically. Maybe he came to see and realize the fact that they didn't handle things very well at all. I think they really messed up big time, and they led to Anakin's downfall in many ways. Maybe he was dealing with all this aftermath, and he realized that it doesn't matter if you follow a code for a dead order and their arbitrary rules. What really matters is how you behave and that you do good. Maybe he had this whole reshifting in his thinking. We don't know. But the movie would be a great opportunity to fill in those gaps and provide an explanation for maybe he's Rey's grandfather. And I do think that he was present in The Force Awakens, but it was just not directly. He was not mentioned, but we hear him talking to Rey. We hear him actually saying, Rey, these are your first steps. So I think for me, that has always been a very strong indicator that there's going to be a Kenobi lineage. And we've talked about it already before, how it would just be such a nice parallel if you have the descendant of Obi-Wan Kenobi and the descendant of Anakin Skywalker still fighting each other, but then working it through, and it all comes full circle with the Kenobi once again guiding the Skywalker, but successfully this time in the case of Anakin, right? So I just think it would be just beautiful for fans.
Yeah, I think the movie should be good because, if Ewan McGregor, he's a tremendous actor, super popular. If he wants to do the movie, if he were Disney, I would say, let's do it, because that's what people want to see more. Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi. And it's something interesting.
Star Wars. He loves Obi-Wan.
Exactly.
I can't imagine he would ever say no.
And he said he's interested, and people are interested, and he's a very popular character because he was both in the prequel and in the old trilogy. And you know that there are some people who like only the old trilogy, there are some people who like only the prequel. Yeah, those people exist, and he unites all the fandom. So it's an excellent idea, but I need to see about what they're going to do, because sometimes some things that are excellent ideas in theory, sometimes they're not that great, but maybe it's gonna be good. As for being Rey's grandfather, the fact that she's a Kenobi descendant, I'm still not sure how that impacts on the sentence that he said that it's important only to her.
Remember, though, he's talking about The Last Jedi. He's not talking about the trilogy. So he's talking about his own movie. Because just like with how he started working on The Last Jedi, things were set up in The Force Awakens Awakens, but it was up to him to figure things out, right? The same way for the last installment of the trilogy, things aren't written in stone yet.
No.
So what he's talking about is for the scope of the movie that he's working on. He's not talking about forever and ever and ever. So what I'm hearing is that we probably will have some idea of who Rey is descended from, but it's not really going to change how things progress in The Last Jedi. It's not going to impact her. That's going to make her do X or Y, you know, the way Luke
and
did,
being Obi-Wan's granddaughter will not have a big impact in this trilogy because, you know, we don't have Obi-Wan Kenobi as an important character in this trilogy.
Yeah, I think it would be just such a massive thing for the fans. Like, and I think they're very keenly aware of that. So I'm more hopeful. I think you always kind of bring me to the realist, you know, expectation. I feel like sometimes I want to take off and say like, yes, this is going to happen. You say, wait a minute, we don't know. And I have to agree with you 100% this time. We don't know, but it just looks really good. It looks like a good setup.
I think it would be neat, especially for all the people who are going to be upset. It's just not Luke's, you know, daughter. So, you know, it's not going to kill anybody to make her a Kenobi descendant, you know, and people are going to be so happy about it. So, but if they don't do it, I hope there is an important reason for that, or maybe they're going to give us something so cool of the Obi-Wan movie, or maybe they just realize how Obi-Wan is popular, and you know, but yeah. So, but those are good news. I'm definitely looking forward to the Obi-Wan movie. I'm not looking forward for the Han movie though. I love Han, but it's just blah. Maybe the fact that it's just another actor, and you know, he looks so different. I don't want someone that's just looks like Harrison Ford, but you know, it's just I'm just not interested in it.
It feels like this is stuff that you can look up in the comic book. I don't feel like we need to have a whole movie about it, and it's not the Force, you know. It's like unrelated stuff. It's like a smuggler movie, great, but we have better things that we need to focus on. So the fact that it's been a debacle, it's been a disaster so far, and it's not even out yet, you know, it's just more concerning than anything else to me, really.
But I think it's just to make Kasdan happy, right? I guess they got it, you know. Sometimes you have this give and take, but with Obi-Wan, if you get Ewan McGregor, just the fact that it's Ewan McGregor, he's so great, and he's so great in Obi-Wan that, you know, just watching him again is going to be amazing. So something that I read that they maybe could bring Liam Neeson, you know, maybe as a Force ghost or something. I would love to see him as well, because I thought it was so perfect. It was like the Jedi. I loved it. I know that movie's not good, but I loved him.
He's actually one of my favorite Jedi for sure.
Yeah,
I think Qui-Gon is, because I think that if I were a Jedi, I would aspire to be like him. Like, I would aspire to be a good guy and follow, you know, general rules, but I'd still like to think for myself and not become a little drone of what the council says.
Yeah,
I think he's just awesome.
Yeah,
and I think it was too bad he died so quickly. We didn't get to know him.
But he had to die, right? So that we would have Anakin. We would have Darth Vader, I mean. But yeah, I think he's really laid back and wise and everything you expect from someone that would be this great master, wise master, but wise in a really cool way. So I would love to see him as well.
I'm sure we will, though. You know why? Because remember when Yoda tells Obi-Wan at the end of Revenge of the Sith that he will show him how to communicate with somebody who found a way to come back?
Oh, right.
So I think for sure if there's an Obi-Wan movie, there's got to be cameo by our Force Ghost. It would just be fantastic if that were
the case. And he did in the Clone Wars, he did the voice.
So really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I think he's up to it. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. But I don't really care about Rey Kenobi, but I don't mind it, and I think it would be a nice thing for the fans.
Yeah, I like the idea of Rey Kenobi. It's my favorite origin theory for her, especially if it turns out that even though she's descendant of Kenobi, her parents are still Darksiders. That would be fantastic. It would just be more interesting to me. But I'm not stuck on it. Like, I feel like that happens a lot with fans, is that they tend to just get really kind of stuck on the idea that if it's not that, it's gonna suck. And I'm not that way. If it doesn't happen, I'll still enjoy the movie, but I just have my hopes set on it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, but the Rey Parentage is a big question, right? When you raise high stakes, I hope it's something that's going to satisfy everybody. So
that's the bottom line. Well, except the hardcore Rey walkers. I don't think they're going to be satisfied with anything.
No.
It's like they only want that. And I don't know how you can still maintain hopes for that after everything that's been shown. It's like it's more and more unlikely each day.
I was hoping maybe Rose would be...
I've heard about that. I think that's interesting. That would be more interesting for me. People kept playing up the idea that her role is so key and so important. It's like, really? Why? I mean, don't get me wrong, I like the actress, and from what I've seen of Rose, I think I'm going to like the character too, but there's only so much time that we have in The Last Jedi. Everybody can't be a key character. You know, we already have Rey, Kylo Ren, and we have Finn, and we have Luke, and we have Leia, so everybody can't be super special and super important. So when I heard that about her, I was wondering.
But the problem is that if she were like Luke's daughter, how come she would be hanging around, she and her sister hanging around Leia, and Leia doesn't know anything, you know? And
I don't think that she's Luke's daughter.
That's
if she were
problem.
one, yes, but because she has a sister, because you could say, well, maybe Luke didn't know because the mom, you know, hid the child from her. But 2 kids?
Yeah, that's the problem. And they're around Leia, and Leia is super good with this, you know, feeling things and everything.
Yep. Next, Leia and Poe.
Yeah.
So.
Oh no, down with the Prim pilot. Yeah, I shipped Leia and Poe, and now
I actually found that premise intriguing of Leia and Poe. I have to say, though, as a Kylo fan who's also an only child, there's something about this article that rubbed me the wrong way. The whole thing about Leia has a new son. Poe obviously is awesome. He's likable. He's perfect. You know, he's not flawed in any way. Which I like more complexity in my characters, but Kylo is flawed and he screwed up, so now Leia has a new son, you know, who's better than the original. There's an undertone there that bugged me a little bit.
Oh.
Also because I feel that the whole spread is kind of not Kylo friendly. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just overprotective when it comes to Kylo Ren. Because I feel like there's this a certain kind of an urge to sideline him or disregard him because he's not perfect or not good, or he's not going to be thrown away in some garbage can just because some fans don't like him.
In The Force Awakens, Poe respects her a lot. He would die for her cause, you know, so there is a lot of love there. That's why I'm just kidding with the Prim pilot, although I thought it was an interesting premise. So you see that there is a lot of love there, and then you have in this the origins for Poe that, you know, he grew up with her. So I kind of think it makes sense that they would have a closer relationship than just General and Pilot, because I really got that they had this, you know, huge affection for each other. And then the only thing is that, whoa, okay, so it's like mother and son, not like, because that would be
get
really
your
cool,
mind
you
out
know,
of the gutter.
since Han died and everything, you know, I'm just saying that,
okay.
Maybe it bugged you because of the people that were predicting that Leia would give up on Kylo and adopt Finn as her son. You know, it's not because of what is there, but of what part of the fandom thinks that, you know, resonates.
It doesn't bother me at all that Leia and Poe have a relationship that's even as close as family. What bothers me is the implication that Poe is here to be a better version of Kylo Ren. That I don't like that.
No.
But that's just me.
No.
Here's the quote from the article regarding Leia. It says that this time her story is intertwined with Poe Dameron, the hotshot X-Wing pilot played by Oscar Isaac. Their relationship is not just general and warrior, they're family. And in Star Wars, the notion of family goes far beyond blood relations. And I thought that was actually pretty cool, and it speaks to what you were talking about, Denise, about how this is an interesting reversal from what we saw before in the original trilogy, because that relationship between Luke and Darth Vader was the key one. The heart of it was this idea that because this is his father, this is his son, and they share blood, and they share more than anything else that's going on, they can build this relationship, and it can end up redeeming Darth Vader. Here we have a reversal of that in a sense, because it says it doesn't matter if you're not blood, you can form important bonds that matter as much as if they were blood relatives, and that can be Luke and Rey, and it can be, you know, Poe and Leia.
Finn and Rey.
Yeah, exactly. So that's another kind of underlying theme here, connecting in a real way and becoming new family.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's super beautiful. I love it. It's nice in this way. I really like about Finn and Rey as kind of siblings. You know, I think it's such a beautiful, nice relationship, and the idea that family is who you choose to be, and it's a very great idea. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Next we have Snoke. In The Last Jedi, Kylo Ren will venture to the side of one of his malevolent icons, and fans will finally finally get their wish to see the enigmatic tyrant in the flesh. I don't know who was wishing for Snoke to be in the flesh. I mean, Snoke's okay, but he was really like easily the worst part of The Force Awakens for me, along with Maz Kanata.
Yeah.
Speaking for myself, we do get some hints about Snoke's physical dimensions. Mentions that he is towering and that up close his face is disfigured, smashed, and burnt. And this is Resnikin's words. And then there's some mention about how we're not necessarily going to find out about his origins, only what we need to know. And Rian Johnson actually gives a quote about that. Similar to Rey's parentage, Snoke is here to serve a function in the story. And a story is not a Wikipedia page. Okay.
Yeah, I guess we're not going to learn a lot about him, but I am surprised that we're going to see him. I wasn't expecting it to, rehash Empire Strikes Back, but we didn't see the Emperor in Flash in Empire Strikes Back, and I liked it because then it's more mysterious and everything. But I guess they're gonna do something different then, yeah.
Yeah, and to me that says that probably Snoke is gonna play a bigger role than the Emperor did in the original trilogy, because the Emperor was kind of like a hovering, malicious entity right up until the end when he's fantastic. Like, I love Palpatine so much.
Yeah.
And I love every second that he's on screen. With Snoke, it sounds like he's actually gonna have a more present role as opposed to kind of hovering from the shadows, which is cool, mostly for me because of Kylo and maybe Rey. We don't know if there's gonna be a dynamic there with Rey, but I think so, and I'll tell you why. Are you ready to hear it?
Yeah.
Because the toys. There's a toy of Rey with a Praetorian Guard, and they come as a set. So that means that they're probably going to share scenes in the movie. And we talked a little bit about that intriguing practice shot of Daisy Ridley against many attackers with sticks. And the same thing with Kylo Ren. Talk a little bit about the Praetorian Guard in the article. The Praetorian Guard is a variation of Palpatine's Royal Guard. We kind of figured that out. And unlike in the original trilogy, these guards actually, they throw down. That's the specific description of it. So they fight, and their costumes are designed to be samurai-like to allow for more movement. Very intriguing.
Well, it basically confirms the fight, right? Because if we are going to see them fight, and if we put the dots together, it just confirms it, because it means that they fight. It means that we are going to see them fight, and I think it's going to be really cool. I really like the way they look. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, and some eagle-eyed observer, I don't remember where it was, but I remember reading somebody commenting that if Rey and Kylo were both fighting against people with sticks with their lightsabers, it has to be some kind of special stick that can withstand a lightsaber impact. Yeah. So it has to be a special weapon. So it's not going to be just anybody, right? So this makes sense that it would be the elite guard for Snoke.
Yeah, it does. I think that's what it is. So I think it's going to be cool.
And I think it makes a lot of sense why we're not hearing more about it, because they're keeping it under wraps. Like, you never hear Kylo and Rey together. You never hear mention of their encounter, their showdown. I mean, this should be a key thing, right? Well, yeah, it probably is, and that's why we're not hearing about it. So this kind of uplifted my mood, because when I first read this whole spread, I was just like really grumpy about the whole thing. Moving on to less exciting things for me, but still something I enjoy, Captain Phasma. There's an article about her. I'm actually looking forward to seeing more of her on screen and to seeing her get to kind of, validate her character a little bit, because right now it's just like a waste of, to be honest, screen time, but it looks like things are going to be better going forward. There's mention of her getting more screen time than in The Force Awakens, and Gwendolyn Christie has a more significant role. Rian Johnson talked about what it was like working with her, and apparently they did a bit of collaboration in kind of designing Phasma's character and her background, so we'll get to see more of her. The Last Jedi won't explore new backstory for Phasma, but her broader tale will be told in new books.
Yeah, there's a novel coming out, or just came out. Yeah, I think it's super cool, because that's a super interesting character, and I'm going to be happy about it.
I agree. I love Gwendolyn Christie, and I hope that we get to see her without her mask.
Yes.
Because she's such a great actress, and I think that's just going to be awesome if we get to see her. But I really like the approach of, okay, this is a cool character. It's somebody we want to know more of, but we just don't have time to do this whole exploration, so let's just release a couple of books. But I don't want that to be too much of a thing with Rey, for example, or with Kylo. You know what I mean?
No. But for the secondary characters, I think it's cool, and it's cool because you get like extra material, and also makes people read, which is cool as well.
All right, moving on, and I have no idea why Chewie is featured in this article.
Maybe there's a reason. Ooh.
He's clearly not a villain, but there is darkness surrounding the Wookiee in this film. Chewbacca is going to be played by Yuna Suotamo, who's taking over the role from Peter Mayhew, who we know is the original Chewie. Chewbacca is mourning his best friend Han Solo, and that grief is not easy to articulate, despite his proficiency with roars and groans. So it's not like we're going to see a depressed Chewie, but we might encounter him being more volatile than usual. I heard a rumor that Chewie cooks a couple of porgs.
Yeah.
I heard about that. I'm kind of looking forward to that.
That's going to be so cool. We need to see that. Yeah.
So they're saying, I guess he's going to be hanging out. He's got some new friends. Or are they snacks? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Because he has a feather in his mouth. Next, we have Maz Kanata. Oh, man. There will be less of the little orange sage in this movie, although Lupita Nyong'o's character still turns up for an important moment in the spotlight.
Oh, it's such a waste of a character because Lupita is just so beautiful, so talented, but, you know, the character was just not well thought. It was bad. I'm glad we will see less of her, which is a pity, you know, because we don't have a lot of wise women, old women in movies.
I wish they had approached this character from an original point of view rather than aiming for a 50% off discount version of Yoda. I don't know, like orange a knockoff version of Yoda that you buy at a flea market. I wanted to, when I heard that Lupita was going to be in the movie, I was so excited because I've been a fan of hers, and I just thought, oh my God, this is going to be awesome. No, it wasn't. And then we have, lastly, a little blurb about Benicio del Toro's DJ. It actually mentions what we've been talking about, the fact that Benicio del Toro threw off a lot of people with his Spanish interview in a radio show where he said that he was playing the villain. And it's actually mentioned by Bresnik, and he says, before the movie began shooting, the actor hinted in a radio interview that he was playing the villain in the film, but in subsequent conversations, like this sit-down with Entertainment Tonight, he said, I don't know if he's a villain. People are saying that, but it's like they read a different script than I read. That's very interesting to me, you know. I wonder if it was because when he signed on, the script wasn't finished, and maybe there were different ideas about what he was going to be, or I wonder if this is just damage control. They're trying to keep it under wraps because it got leaked out, and they want us to perceive Benicio del Toro as a largely harmless, kind of roguish character, and then surprise us come movie day. I don't know, but it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I prefer if he's not really a villain. I love these characters that are like kind of in between, you know, and they're usually complex, and they add this layer and complexity, and he's such a great actor, and yeah, it's gonna be good.
I would like it if it turned out that he's not what he seems to be. They're presenting him as a hacker, so he's described by John Boyega as the best code breaker in the galaxy. They're looking for him to break into systems in Canto Bight, and he joins in with Rose and Finn's mission there, but he's unkempt, scrubby looking, and this and that. I would love for him to end up being King Prana. I'm stuck on that.
I love that theory. It's my favorite theory, King Prana. If King Prana is Rey's father, I'm gonna but he's not. We know that he's not gonna be.
No. I think we've come to the end of our discussion for this week, and we want to thank everybody who listens in. As always, we love your feedback, we love your comments, we like to get questions. You can write to us at StarWarsConnection09@gmail.com. You can write a comment on our YouTube page. You can follow us on Tumblr and Twitter, and you can listen to us on Mixcloud. Until next time, may the Force be with you.